Rush hour in London looks very different to rush hour north of the border in Scotland. The empty streets are a reminder that people here have been urged to stay at home, while many in England are encouraged to return to the workplace. First Minister Nicola Sturgeon says this has nothing to do with politics. Her administration is simply reacting to the reality on the ground.
We want to have as much cooperation as possible, but it is simply a statement of fact that on many of these things they are devolved responsibilities, and therefore it is not just necessary. I think it's appropriate for me to recognise my direct accountability on making sure that these things happen as everybody would expect them to happen.
Her more cautious approach has been broadly welcomed by residents.
I think she's actually thought about the long-term health statistics much better than Boris has.
I think she's doing okay compared to the rest of the UK, the way she comes across.
It may seem fragmented or even confused, but this is the reality of devolution in the UK. The UK government just does not control health policy or education policy in Wales, Northern Ireland, or here in Scotland. What the pandemic has done is laid bare the way different administrations react in very different ways.
So when Boris Johnson announced a lifting of the lockdown and the devolved nations refused to follow suit, it has raised questions about how united the UK really is.
I think as we move to the next phase, as we exit the lockdown, as we move to responding to the crisis and rebuilding the economy, I think that's when we will start to see more tensions, more difficulties emerging, and perhaps more ideological distinctions in the approaches that they take.
Even though Scotland voted no to independence in 2014, support for a split from the UK has gathered pace since the Brexit referendum. The country is politically divided, but it is united behind Nicola Sturgeon's handling of the coronavirus pandemic.
She has been admirably clear and forthright and candid through a lot of this emergency, and even some of the people who vote Conservative or Labour in Scotland are prepared to concede that. But in terms of actual policy, there's been very little difference between Scotland and England.
Normal politics here at the seat of power has taken a back seat during this pandemic, but the question of independence remains unresolved. Scotland is set to return to the polls next year in an election that could prove consequential. Halla, Mohieddeen, Al Jazeera, Edinburgh.